There's a time and a place for everything. But who's to determine the time? And who's to determine the place? It's determined by you. Maybe one measure of courage, a step that you had to make, or I had to make.
Every Monday. I bet you for a year, we were right here. That was our first little pitch at this, to see if they would even consider us, Sarah Keys Evans Plaza. It's come a long ways, as my daddy would say.
The reason that G. Smith Reynolds had these grants out was to tell, not often told, and in this case, never told, story that would start conversation.
I look at it that there was some reason that she was put here on August the 1st. And I feel that there was a purpose that God had also for us to develop this project.
Coming together here and there and meetings and community sessions, and, you know, it was a labor of love.
We put it together and sent it in. People said, good luck. Well, guess what? We got it. We got it. We thought it would be good to be in the Martin Luther King Park. We went before the city council, made a presentation, they approved it.
The invite is what's going to be on the inside of the wall, the story that's going to be told.
The Reynolds Foundation was impressed because you had a strong black woman that took the stand, unknowing the impact that she would have. She wasn't planning on that bus to do anything but go home.
To go home.
She stood for all of us.
I remember seeing a commercial for women in the military.
American women were to write new, stirring chapters in the histories of each of the services.
I decided I would go down and sign up, not having any idea what I was really in for. 2 other girls and I took the train. I said to myself, you're in now, there's no way out. But we kept pushing and we made it. And when basic training ended, I said, voila, on to the next step. I put in for my first visit to my hometown in Washington, North Carolina. I went to Trenton and boarded a bus to take my first journey home after entering the military.
We sat down one day and we outlined all 8 of these murals. We brought in the muralist and we told him what we saw.
Napoleon Hill is our artist, and he has done several murals across North Carolina and beyond.
Mainly, I like to paint stuff of historical value that has an impact on the community. You're not painting just to be painting, you're painting for a reason. That's my whole point. I try to capture that message and bring it out to the people and let them carry the message on. But this group has powerful vision. And the only way to tell a story is through these paintings.
Well, soldiers, and especially women, when we traveled, we always made sure we were well groomed, well polished. You understand what I'm telling you? If you had a lot of pride in your dresser and your uniform, and I'd had a lot of training in that because I wore uniforms to school, and Vivian was my mother.
They teach school. They told me you go from, which way? Left to right. So by the time we would get to number 8, we would have told her whole story.
That was not my first time traveling home by bus. We knew about the Morgan in Virginia. My dad, he told us, when you travel, you can sit any place you want to on the bus. And I never forgot that. So we stopped in this little town called Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina. The driver collected a little stub of everyone, and when he got to me, he said, I want you to get up and go to the rear of the bus. And I told him I was comfortable seated where I was. He didn't say anything. He just kept on with his business, collecting the tickets. So he came back to the front, and he said, I want everyone on this bus to get off except that woman that refused to move to the rear. She can stay here until this bus moves out, but it's not going anyplace tonight. You know, it's sort of like a shock that I just hear something that I'm understanding what the man is saying, but I can't stay on this bus by myself. So I stood up and I go straight into the bus station. The lady behind the ticket window, she pulled the curtain down and dimmed the lights. I turned around and there was a tall guy pushing a broom. And he said to me, Miss, don't you know where you are? I said to myself, oh God, Sarah, you are in trouble.
We come on this chilly morning in December for this historical groundbreaking.
Right in the park of Martin Luther King.
I applaud all of you for your hard work and your dedication. It will be a real treasure to have this here in Roanoke Rapids.
So we're ready to put our shovels in the ground on marking the construction of the Sir Keith Evans inclusive art project entitled Closing the Circle. So now let the work begin.
One of the things that I was really impressed with is the power of partnerships on the local level. They got skill sets that we didn't have. I mean, all of these things come together. I'm just blown away.
But it was all like in a movie that night, you know, one that probably most people had never seen before. You know, with this occurring, this woman, these policemen. And they said to the driver, is this the one? One said, yes, we're locking you up for disorderly conduct. I said, but you were just there. There was nothing going on disorderly. So they locked me up for sure, with bars on the windows, a sink in the corner with a stool, a mattress on the floor that was dirtier than any that you see discarded in the street. Why would I come to jail? I don't belong here. So I paced the floor all night, and I cried and I prayed. And when I tell you, you can sleep with your eyes wide open, that's how I got through the night. The next morning, the sun began to peep through the bars. The jailer came, took me before the chief of police, said, is that a uniform you're wearing? I said, you mean to tell me you don't know the color of the United States Army uniform? He said to me, that's why you spent the night in jail, because you're too damn smart. He said, if you have $25, you can leave. Wednesday, we hold court. You can come back and try to get the $25. So they put me on the next bus. That's when I arrived home. My father said, why were you so late getting in last night? And I started to spill this story to him.
This painting is Sarah Keith's father. It's showing how strong he was. And during that time, how strong he was, and being a black man, standing up for his daughter.
I told him, I said, I wasn't disorderly. He jumped up, said, I know you weren't disorderly. That is a term that they use when they cannot find anything else legal to arrest you for when you were traveling. My dad said, well, we're going back to Roanoke Rapids.
He wanted to make sure they would go to court to clear Sarah's name.
We went through the little hearing, and of course it was a flop. But a process was beginning that I had no idea how it would turn out. It's a good thing I had my father on the outside.
A man not 6 feet tall no more, but he's a man. And I could applaud the fact that you got someone courageous enough to speak truth to power. And to me, he became a hero.
She finally became acquainted with Dovey Roundtree. And Dovey Roundtree was a lawyer who had been in the wax, who had experienced all of this type of discrimination in her career, and so she took on the case.
some of it could have happened, probably should have happened much sooner than it did, but it's like I stated before, there's a time and a place for everything.
I'd like to thank the Z. Smith Reynolds Foundation for awarding the Z. Smith Reynolds Foundation Inclusive Public Art Grant to Eastern Carolina Christian College.
And sometimes we honor people not only for what they have brought out in themselves, but also for what they have brought out in others.
Sarah Keys, an African-American woman at the age of 22, refused to give up her seat to move to the back of the state-to-state charter bus in Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina.
On November 25th of 1955, the Interstate Commerce Commission ruled that the Morgan versus Virginia case was valid law and had to be enforced. Therefore, what had happened to Sarah Keys here in Roanoke Rapids was unconstitutional. After Interstate Commerce Commission ruled in Sarah Keys' favor, just 1 week later, that's when Rosa Parks in Montgomery, Alabama, took a clue, if you will, from Sarah Louise Keys,
whose one act of bravery set ablaze the fires of justice that ultimately outlawed segregation of black passengers on buses traveling across state lines.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
This is a glorious day. I believe that we all have a kinship, and I am very, very happy and very proud of everyone.
I tell my grandchildren, because of her, on the train, plane, bus, you can sit anywhere.
It is Mrs. Evans and my family's hope that this mural will educate, uplift, and empower present and future generations and help them recognize and remember her as one of the many trailblazers that took a stand against injustice. Let us recognize the significance of this mural not simply because this event occurred, but because it holds continued relevance.
I don't know if there's another one anywhere in the country that tells her story like this monument here in Roanoke Rapids.
We're really proud of what God blessed us to do.
We spend a lot of time together. It's just like anything else. Some days we had to put some people in time out and all that. And if we had not believed in ourselves, it just shows you when people put their heads together for a project.
To me, that monument speaks as a voice for the voiceless.
When I go out there now, I go out there with a sense of pride and say we had something to do with the creation of the Sarah Keys Plaza, closing the circle.
But I'd like to be remembered as someone who helped somebody along the way, you know.
Visibly Speaking is a production of PBS North Carolina in association with the Z. Smith Reynolds Foundation.